What's up, guys? This is Gary with Fresh from the Farm Fungi. I'm here in Denver, Colorado, and today I wanted to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes or pitfalls or problems that people come across when they're growing mushrooms. So I just wanted to start off by saying thanks for all the support. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to our channel if you're looking forward to more videos like these. And if you haven't checked out our Etsy yet, we've got some new merchandise on there. We've got these really cool coffee mugs and some stickers and all of our live cultures, which are ready for purchase. We do slants for long-term storage, liquid cultures, and plates. Check out our Etsy, Fresh Fungi, and I'll get into talking about the 5 biggest mistakes growing mushrooms. So the number one mistake that I see with people who are just starting out is that they start off growing way too much mushrooms, or just they have a lot on their plate. And I think the easiest way for anyone to start off growing mushrooms is just by getting a fruiting kit, like a ready to fruit block, and just watching it on your countertop or in like a little still air box type fruiting chamber. That way you'll get the whole idea of how the mushroom will start to fruit. So in my short amount of time growing mushrooms, I've seen, half a dozen mushroom farms start up, and usually they'll get a few grow kits and get some really nice fruits, and then all of a sudden they have a 3,000 square foot grow facility with huge sterilizers. And the problem with that is that once you start to ramp up your production, any inefficiencies that you have are going to be amplified tenfold. So my operation started with a tiny little 4x4 tent, and I was just growing a few oyster blocks. And then slowly, as I honed in that amount of mushrooms, I started to ramp up, and maybe then I started producing spawn. And I actually started with plates and then went into spawn, and then after I got the petri dishes down, I transitioned into a liquid culture just because it's a lot easier in production. But there are risks every time that you ramp up your production, so it's very important to have the efficiency of your operation really dialed in before you try to grow any more mushrooms. And I've seen a lot of people kind of spiral out of control because they're doing tons and tons of substrate, and then the next week they're not keeping up with their spawn production. So my advice is start small. I've been there before. Right when I started, I probably had to discard 300 pounds of substrate because I was doing a lot more than I could handle. And when you do large bulk sterilization, there's a lot more risk than if you're doing small 5-pound blocks. And if one sterilization cycle goes bad, you're only missing 10 pounds of substrate, compared to if you're doing huge 55-gallon drum, 300 pounds of substrate, and one batch goes bad, then you're losing a lot of investment. So start small, guys, and you'll do fine as you ramp up your production. Just make sure that you have everything dialed in. So the second biggest problem that I see in people growing mushrooms is where they source their substrate, and the idea behind the substrates for the particular mushrooms that you're using. So in my case, I source my substrate from local woodworkers in the area, and I use all hardwoods. There's a lot of cottonwood in Colorado, so I have a pretty good connection where I can get cottonwood, sawdust, and various hardwoods in different shapes and sizes. And then I supplement that with some really nice quality local feed stores in the area, and that way I keep everything pretty low in my cost. So I've had a lot of people in the past ask me like, all right, well, I've got a bunch of logs. Can I just grind these up into wood chips and then use that as a substrate? And honestly, you can do that. But to me, if you want to have an efficient operation, then producing your own substrate is going to be another cost and a problem. So an alternative thing would be to go around your community and source different types of substrates that's going to fit into your operation. So maybe you live in a tropical region and there's a lot of agricultural waste, like like corn husks or whatever, like palm leaves, and that way you're gonna not waste time by making that substrate if you can just use it from whatever's around you. A lot of people will really overspend on the pellets, and that's pretty good. It's a good way to keep your mushrooms consistent, but when you're starting out, like, I recommend looking around. That way you can learn on local source substrate, and your operation will be healthier in the long run for finding out how to create an efficient source for your mushrooms to grow on. All right, so number 3, the third biggest problem in mushroom growing is when people begin to cut corners on sterility or pasteurization, whatever you want to call it. But I've seen a lot of people on these mushroom forums kind of trying these really low-tech techniques, like when you're doing bucket cultivation. I've seen one of the mushroom farms that set up this huge operation with using buckets, which is really cool because it might be better for the environment, but in the long term you can't really keep up with cleaning your buckets properly, and also just cutting corners on sterilization times. That's never a good thing. Make sure that you have a procedure that you follow, and follow it every single time. It might be tempting to cut back 40 minutes on around here and there just to see, but once you get contamination in your operation, it's almost impossible to get rid of it without shutting everything down and starting all over. So that is everyone makes that mistake. I've done it in the past with spawn, where you're trying to dial in that minimum amount of time, but it's just not really worth it unless you're kind of just doing test batches. So that's kind of my advice. So number 3, don't cut corners on sterility. All right, so number 4, it kind of coincides with number 3. So the 4th biggest problem in growing mushrooms, in my opinion, is that people don't clean enough. So cleanliness and sterility kind of go hand in hand. My operation, I spend about 60 to 80% of my time just cleaning everything. So whether it's hydrogen peroxide or bleach or Sanidate or any of the agricultural products that are approved by your local regulator, anything that is safe to be around the mushrooms, I recommend 15% bleach and then hydrogen peroxide, and cleaning daily. I do a deep clean 2 or 3 times a week where I'm wiping the walls down, doing a full ceiling down to the floor, and that way I don't have to worry about contamination. So contamination is a big cost in mushroom farming, and if you start off with good habits, then that's going to carry over year after year after year. So number 4 biggest problem is that people don't clean enough. So don't be lazy about cleaning, and you're going to have such better products. All right, so number 5, 5th biggest problem growing mushrooms is going to be genetics. So there are a lot of bunk genetics out there, a lot of people that are just taking liquid cultures and expanding them over and over again. And if you use that and you're not getting the quality fruits that everyone else gets, you're going to get really discouraged. So I recommend going with the more reputable brands that are out there, we breed all of our mushrooms in-house, so that way, you know, they're not senesced. And personally, I think that even using other people's genetics is it's not going to be as efficient as if you breed your own genetics, but obviously you want to start off with really high quality strains. So number 5 is genetics. You can have, you know, the best setup in the world, and if you don't have the proper genetics, then you're not going to get the yields, and it's not going to be efficient or profitable or fun. If you're just doing it as a hobby, you want to get, you know, really cool top of the line genetics. And you know, there's a lot of really good mushroom growers out there that are breeding their own, and just be weary of, you know, some of the off-brand ones that are people just copying clones over and over again, because those strains are gonna senesce and then they're gonna lose their rigor over time. All right guys, so thanks for watching this video. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our videos if you haven't yet. And I'm gonna be producing more videos like these in the future, so give us a shout out on social media and comment below if you have any more ideas about problems growing mushrooms. But until next time guys, much love.